Welcome to Weekend Warriors episode 4. Uh, my name is Silver Sarmel, and this is Tom Jones. This is a podcast about two art directors teaching you on how to become one. And today we're going to talk about game conventions and how to make trailers. This is very relevant because Tom has recently finished his little expo traveling. You went to E3 and then you also finished the trailer for Rookie, your game with Polygon Treehouse. So I'd really love to talk about the process because it's fresh in your mind.
Yeah.
And you can give us the most relevant updated data.
I can try. I'm pretty tired because of the trip. Yeah, I guess so I got back last night about midnight. We left like a week last Sunday. It's about 10 days ago. So the trip involved, to give you some context, we flew to LA for E3 from the UK. Did E3 for a few days. And then on the Thursday, so E3 was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Thursday afternoon, we had to leave early to fly to Sweden. So we flew to Stockholm and then drove basically across Sweden after an 11-hour flight to get to DreamHack, which is in southern Sweden, which is like another games expo, but more just like a crazy rave esport mashup that was pretty intense. And then flew back last night. So it's been a slightly crazy week and a bit. And yeah, before E3, as you said, we released a new teaser trailer.
It was a beautiful trailer, by the way.
Thanks, man.
Excellent trailer.
Yeah, Alex deserves a lot of credit for that as well.
Yeah, you guys did really good with the mood and setting the tone for the game.
Yeah, we're really pleased with it. So that the idea there is that we, put something out before E3 to get people's attention and to help us have some meetings. So the two events were kind of quite different because E3 was very press and influencer focused. So we had a private room with our publisher. We had like meetings booked throughout the days. So journalists and people would come to speak to us and play the game in kind of quite a closed environment. And then DreamHack was the complete opposite. We were kind of on the show floor with a booth, just hanging out, being like, "Do you want to play our game? Do you want to play our Scandinavian inspired game in the middle of Sweden?" So that was we were a bit like, "Oh, are we going to get stoned?" Or but actually that was a lot of fun because the reactions were kind of positive, but also slightly more genuine. Like when people play it, they don't owe you anything, so they're more than happy to just stop playing halfway through and walk off if they don't like it. So when you actually see people finish it, and you can kind of take what they say at face value, I think. Whereas the press stuff is always a bit more, everyone's.
I guess it's more professional.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's been positive so far as well, which is good.
So what is the difference between the audience in Sweden and the audience in the States, like non-press audience? Was there anything that you saw?
Well, we didn't actually have any non-press audience in the States, so
okay.
That was quite a big difference. I think, from like previous stuff, I don't know, everyone was like super friendly, very, very happy to chat. Not that other people aren't. I think generally like games players are kind of quite engaged. I mean, I think one of the differences maybe was that there were people there not necessarily for indie games, and they kind of saw our game and thought it looked interesting because of the art style, and then we gave them a bit of a pitch and got them to play, and they were like, "Oh, actually, it's pretty good." Perhaps coming from a background of playing stuff like Fortnite or Overwatch and things like that wouldn't necessarily lead to our stuff, but then we're like, "Oh yeah, it's actually kind of cool." So that was good, and actually, I think that's where to kind of perhaps reroute to something helpful or in line with what we're talking about today on the podcast, where it's important to actually have your messaging sorted and know kind of the story you want to tell to people about your product.
Mm-hmm.
And across both events, that was the same, whether it was to press or to the public. I mean, we refined it and got better at it as the days went on, but in essence, we were telling the same, and it is a kind of a story, the same speech about what your game is and what makes it interesting and why you should play it and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we have a couple of comments on the comment section as well. One from Kaya says, "Congrats on the amazing trailer, Tom." And one from Vera, "I love the trailer. My son too, especially smiling monster in the end." It was really awesome moment at the end of the trailer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's Roki at the end of the trailer. So that's who the monster. There's anyone who hasn't seen it, it ends with Tuve, who's the main character. She's a young girl standing in the foreground. This dark furry monster rises up behind her, and that's Roki, who the game is named after. So that was our cliffhanger ending.
Yeah. So maybe we can start with the conventions in general and how important or what is the function of conventions for the game industry in your mind? Coming from AAA background and now going to the indie background as well. What is the difference between those two as well? I'd be interested because I can share my background with the mobile games industry, and game conventions really aren't that important for the mobile games industry because it doesn't interact with its fans and press the same way as traditional games industry does. A lot of the games from mobile games are done secretly for a really, really, really long time. And lots of trailers are constantly released, but secretly. So under a fake name or something like that, so we can test out the retention and Facebook marketing numbers before any huge marketing splashes are done. So there is this constant iteration and grind going on in the background all the time, and during this grind, a lot of games will be canceled due to not having a good case for scaling up with more money with marketing, or not having a good case for scaling up with player retention. And it's also a little bit strange for the developers at that moment because in a way your game is out, but at the same time you're not interacting with the players on an intimate level yet.
Yeah. So for us, I think, well, like I say, the two shows were different. So taking E3 first, I think it was important for us to be seen, partly because the type of game we're making, it's going to go on sale.
Yeah.
Its success will be obviously determined by how well the game is, but how good the game is. Sorry, I told you I was tired. But also how aware people are of it, and that will come through press and influencers and people kind of spreading the message, saying like, why is this game worth spending 15 20 euros on? And there's a lot of games out there, so trying to make some headway into getting into people's minds. That's kind of how I saw E3. When we've had some kind of articles and stuff trickle through this week, but they tend to be part of a here's what I saw at E3 kind of write up, or my review of day 2 or whatever. So you tend to be bunched in with a number of other titles. It's not as though it's like one big write-up review, because that's unrealistic. The journalists have got dozens of games to go and look at. But the flip side is, you can start building a relationship with some of those people. It means they have met you, they played your game, so that if you can then reach out to them in the future, they know who you are. Hopefully they've liked what they played and want to see more. So it gives you that chance for when you're getting closer to release to actually have a broader kind of network of people. It's kind of networking in some ways. Obviously getting a good write-up and a validation at this point's helpful as well. But that for me was the good thing about the press side at E3 was starting to kind of form the race and seeing, you know, who gravitates towards it, who perhaps has got a following that suits our kind of target audience, that kind of stuff. Because obviously, the good thing about being indie is, as opposed to like AAA stuff, where you know you need to sell X amount of copies, like 1 million plus or something, to start making any real money. The indie side, you're aiming for much smaller sell through, which actually means I think you can focus your approach more directly on like specific groups of people and actually specific influencers and publications that perhaps are read by like, you know, a smaller group. But actually,
it's not a mass market thing at the same.
Exactly. So like previous stuff at Sony, it was all about like going big and making a massive impression. And obviously
everybody.
They weren't even there yet. They're this year, but in previous years, you know, being on stage and being in a big trailer on stage and stuff. And we don't really need to do that. So that was nice in some ways. And then, you know, the flip side for the DreamHack stuff, which was, you know, people playing the game. It's cool, people playing it and liking it and hopefully buying it. That in itself, though, is kind of completely negated by the, you know, the cost of going to the event. Like, actually, if you were to just base it on the amount of people you can get to play and buy the game, you'll be at a loss compared to how much you've spent going. So it's not really about that. For me, it was more about, again, like, potentially you might have someone play it who has an audience. So you might meet a streamer or, you know, a YouTuber or something like that, which I think is a bonus. But actually also it's kind of what was really nice for us was seeing people play it and being able to get people's reactions. And you can kind of infer, like, I mean, it was a 10-15 minute demo, but you can go, are people doing what we want them to do in terms of the level design? Have we designed the game well? Is our messaging good? Like, are the things people are resonating? Well, do people like the game? Like, is there anything redeemable about it whatsoever? And if so,
now is a good time to know.
Yeah, quite. If it's not, we've got a problem. But if there, you know, if there's some good stuff, what are the things that people like? Are they the same things that we think they should like? And that might not be the case. So either you kind of go, well, we need to change our messaging and pivot towards this stuff that we didn't think was as good, but perhaps is better than we thought, or go, no, the things we think are important are still important, but they're not coming through enough. So why is that? So it's almost like a little case study, and that was really useful.
We had a question from the chat. Tom, you mentioned having real players play your game in Sweden. Have you had this many people play your game before, or have you done playtests before?
Not on this scale. So we probably had maybe, I don't know, 100, 150 people play it throughout the few days we were there. We've had like friends and family and ex-colleagues and stuff play it, but
it's different from real audience, right?
It's different from real audience, and they're coming at it from a pure player perspective. It's not clouded by like, you're my friend, I need to give you feedback now, or, you know, you're in my family or whatever, or you know, if it's someone you know, there's always a slight barrier.
There's a bias,
so that they don't owe us anything, and particularly like I said earlier, the game being based in Scandinavian folklore, going to somewhere in Scandinavia and like putting it there and being like, is this okay that we've done this? Do you think this is cool? Are you like offended? Or that was like really useful, because that's the thing, you know. And so even just on that very kind of high level, that was good. But yeah, in terms of the scale, we've not done anything like that before. Our next step is to do something larger again, with kind of a proper playtest where you can get realistic metrics and data back, and you can ask specific questions throughout the test. I think we'll probably do like a 2-3 hour playthrough of a part of the game and get some really quantifiable data. but a lot of that can be based off this initial test where you go, okay. So one of the things people liked was the story, or the story that we kind of alluded to. There's only so much you can infer in the 15 minutes, but there are little bits of pieces you interact with that suggest a wider narrative. But we were like, I mean, the crux of the game is that you play as Tuva, as I said, and you're trying to get her brother back. Her brother's been taken by Rurky the monster. So it's like an exploration into this wilderness, and she has to go and find her way back to her brother. People are like, oh, that sounds cool. I'm interested. So I want to know more. I want to know what's happened. Why has he been taken? Is he okay? And that kind of stuff. So you can see they're kind of interested, and that's good. But what we need to make sure then is that in a longer playthrough, that interest is sustained, and that there's enough breadcrumbs. Like writing a good story, but in the game, I think it's the danger is you get consumed by gameplay and little puzzle loops and forget the overarching narrative. So that's a really good thing for us to have as a driver for that. So that's the kind of way I see it, as like a stepping stone to a larger test, and helping us to ask the right questions.
Yeah, this kind of leads to the question also. You sort of answered it, but I think you can answer even more. Another question we had from the audience was, did you learn something interesting from the case study? And the story definitely is. But what else did these 150 people give you?
I think it probably reinforced some views I had, but kind of gives you the confidence to act on them. So there's a good example in our game. We have stuff where you'll run into the scene, and the character, like in some scenes, the character will make a comment on like, oh man, how old is this church, or something. That is not literal, I'm tired. So the actual line's much better than that. And you kind of go, that's cool, it's setting the scene. But then part of me was like, but is that slowing gameplay down? I don't know. And watching it, people clearly got far more enjoyment from proactively interacting with something and getting some information that way, rather than us telling it to them. Which kind of sounds obvious, but because I think you kind of feel like you want to move things on and call out stuff. That's why we ended up doing these, like, I mean, not really cutscenes, but the kind of mini cutscenes. And someone actually said, like, I think there's too many cutscenes. And my initial reaction was like, that's ridiculous. There aren't any at all. But actually, when you break it down, it's like something that's interrupting gameplay. So that was quite good, because actually, let's just make a rule that we don't do any of that stuff. Let's just only ever do it by looking at things and give the player agency. So that was probably maybe the biggest takeaway, other than just watching how people played the demo and seeing kind of where they got stuck, or just little bits and pieces we can polish up. But actually, like, that was the most reassuring thing in some ways, was there was no one thing where you go like, actually that's terrible, that we made a big mistake there. And people were like generally really liked being in the world and the music and stuff. So it was like, okay, that's good foundation to move forwards on. And you go, well, let's use that then. Let's make that a thing that we promote and push that further, because people, obviously, you hear it from enough people, you go, well, that's cool. Let's promote that more. So that kind of feeds back into that messaging, reinforcing what you're saying.
So how much time did you guys spend on the trailer? Let's talk about a little bit. How do you feel about it now in the retrospect as well? I'd love to kind of hear what were your initial expectations for it, and did the outcome match it?
Initially, we were going to do a bigger trailer, but we've decided to save that for later. So we kind of wanted to do this like teaser trailer, so it's shorter. There's so the actress who voices the main character also sings, so she's kind of singing this slightly charming lullaby that goes a bit eerie, as you see the in-game character kind of running through loads of different scenes in the game world. So it's kind of supposed to be atmospheric, slightly haunting, and I think we achieved that. And I'm pleased with how it looks. Like, I'm not, a lot of the time you work on stuff and immediately can't stand the sight of it. I still like it, so that's good. I think sorry, I'm probably answering your question in a weird order, but
No, we'll get there.
One of the things we kind of took from it, from a reaction, was like people liked it, but equally there were questions of like, well, what's the game? Is it just like, do you just run around? Because it's kind of this atmospheric trailer, you don't really see much gameplay, and it's like that's totally fair, particularly because our kind of our announcement trailer was a similar thing. And they're cool and they're very not easy to do, but they're more straightforward to do because it gives you a structure to work to. But it means that anything we do in future, I think we'll probably need to address some wider issues. In terms of how we approached it, I think one of the things Alex and I do is make sure we know what the music is or the pacing first, and that's kind of gone back all the way to when we were at uni together. Like, it's very hard to edit something without knowing what you're editing to. So like obviously you can have an initial idea, but then you need to get some audio, and that would be like my biggest piece of advice for anyone doing a trailer is work out what the audio is, because you can't get a load of shots together and then try and fit some audio on top. You need to properly edit it to the beats or the pacing. So we'd recorded this kind of lullaby stuff with Ingvild, our actress, and then we gave that to our composer, and he did some really good music to accompany it. And so that was kind of the block out, and then we knew the rough time length. So from then on, it was kind of just finding some good shots, and then the process was, we'd put the shots in kind of very rough form, and then just iterated on those shots. So it was kind of, once you have your shot selection, you can then art them up to a really good standard. So that was kind of the process, and in some ways it was quite straightforward because we've done a lot of trailers before, so I think we did it in a structured way and knew what we were doing, so there were no hidden surprises, and it's not like a crazy complicated edit or anything like that.
True.
So yeah, and because it's like, I don't know, 40 seconds long, that makes it more straightforward as well. The next one we do, I think, will be more complicated, particularly if we're trying to show story and gameplay and stuff like that. So yeah, maybe I'll have a call after that one.
That would be
fortunately, Alex does a lot of that stuff as well, and he's really good at it. So
yeah, it would be cool to talk to both of you about that as well.
Yeah. So
how involved were you doing trailers for the previous studios that you work with? Because being in mobile games industry as an art director, you also work on the game trailers a lot, but once again, very different from indie and AAA studios is that we don't make the trailers so often as mood setters. We make them as advertisement for something that you can get on Facebook. There's like 7 to 15 seconds. It's about the messaging more and getting to the App Store. Those are the biggest kind of intentions of the trailer. Sometimes we make bigger cinematic trailers, but also they have like multiple purpose functions. It's always about how can we make an advertisement out of this, and can we cut pieces out of this to make Facebook ads or Instagram ads, or because that's the whole the only way to kind of make money with it.
No, sure. I guess it's a bite-sized consumption, and show me now.
Yeah, it is a platform that everybody's scrolling always really, really fast, and whatever media you push on people, they want to make snap decisions. Yeah,
exactly. So I mean, working at Sony, I think we did a lot of the trailer stuff. That's not to say that's true of every AAA studio, but we were very heavily involved in it just because I think we found it easier to, block it out and choose the music and get a sense of what we were doing. And then often that would go to an editor to polish up and really get all the shots in and get the pacing right. But they always tended to be very time consuming and difficult entities to create, because just so much going on. Like you kind of ideally you'd make a trailer when everything is finished and looking good, and you've got loads of footage to choose from. That's like never been my experience. And actually, you're waiting for game artwork to be done, or like for when we did rigs in VR, we had like a narrative idea for the trailers. I'm trying to remember back. But like it involved, because it's a multiplayer game, so it involved us like capturing footage from all these players. Like we were trying to infer there was a match, and we had commentary over the top. And the trailer is actually really cool. But then we needed to record the footage of every player, and it's in VR. So it's like, how do you get the video out and make sure it's in the right format? So we just had this like incredibly complicated setup in the office, and then you're getting people into play and trying to choreograph them at the right time. And I'm having like flashback syndrome. And then you still have to get it in the edit and go, does that work? Do we need to capture it again? And then you have so many shots to go through. That's where it becomes quite hard. And obviously you've got a lot of people with an opinion, which is totally fair, but it can be quite hard. You could create director or executive producer or art directors, and then you've got marketing and senior VPs, and like it's a lot of opinions there.
And it can lose its identity that way, right? Because you're trying to please everybody when you have to make compromises.
Exactly. Or then you'll get a last minute request for it to be longer or shorter.
Yeah, like, it's always a last minute request.
When we used to joke that there was like last minute marketing requests, and it's like, it's not funny. Still not funny. So that made it very hard. I mean, I think we mentioned on a previous podcast, we used to do trailers in the concept group to kind of prove out ideas, and that they were kind of slightly more fun. So we would, like I said, we'd choose a song and edit to that, and they were more direct. But yeah, certainly game trailers were always very hard. So actually, in comparison, that's why the stuff we're doing on Roki feels, really straightforward, because we're in control of it. So
you can, your audience, and you know how to influence them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and also, like I say, you need to be able to react to the audience as well, and make sure that you offer something that is needed, which is what we'll do when we do another one. The flip side is they're time-consuming things to do, however efficiently you do it, and that's hard.
So walk us through a little bit about the influencers as well, because that game keeps changing every year as well, as influencers become more important to the industry, and sometimes they also lose their importance as they might drop out of fame, or maybe the prices get so high that it becomes uneconomical for game studios to hire them. In the best case scenario, obviously you want to have a relationship with influencers that is not based only on money, but actual mutual benefit of them getting great content for their channel that they can use to entertain their audience, while also you get more eyes on your game.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think there's obviously a threshold where money kicks in, and I think that's not a decision we have to make yet. Like I was talking about earlier, I think because we don't need as bigger numbers, I think we perhaps have the opportunity to find those more mutual beneficial relationships and actually give them content in exchange for them showing our game. So the idea, I mean, like when you say influencers, it's kind of like streamers or kind of like this stuff on YouTube or Twitch or something like that, people playing the game and reviewing it and sharing it with their followers. It's like the new TV, and it's very direct, and it's kind of particularly curated. People follow because they like a certain type of game. So I think that's quite interesting as well, in that you can you know, so you could go to someone who's got, I don't know, 500,000 followers, but maybe they play Overwatch and Fortnite and Animal Crossing and Abzu, and it's like, okay, well, how many of the 500,000 watch for, you know, Overwatch and Fortnite? If that's like 450,000, and the others are more interested, I think that's where it can become a bit hard to judge. Whereas actually, if you've got someone who's maybe got 50,000 followers, but only plays like adventure games, you go, well, you know, that's our audience. So
yeah,
in some
even
ways,
5,000 is better than
quite. If you've got 5,000 active an active audience who really likes that stuff, I think that's much better than just trying to go really big. But obviously that's where, you know, the big games go. They want wide reach, and their games are appealing to a wider audience, so that correlation works. But for us, I think we can, what I'd want to do, I mean, we're in the early stages, but actually find those kind of partnerships and the fit that works better. And actually, I mean, that was one of the other takeaways going back to the show in Sweden, was seeing, you know, like kids play the game, or, you know, kids sitting down and they're like parents helping them a bit with some of the puzzle. I mean, I say kids, that's a range. I mean, there was an 8-year-old who played it and gave us I think Alex tried to explain the controls at the start, and he was like, I have played games before, you know. But then gave us a little slow clap of applause at the end, which is quite nice. But yeah, so like the most, there was like early teens playing who maybe hadn't played those type of games before, but then you know, the parents would help, and that was really nice. Or they did it with their friends, and it was like seeing that social aspect was really rewarding. But also it resonated a lot with girls that played it as well, so it was kind of quite a diverse mix. And I think that it was nice seeing you kind of go, okay, you can start to push the game on these audiences a bit more. So yeah, for me, finding influencers who curate the content that, you know, actually is in line with us, I think I'm quite interested in that. But it's tough, you know, because like doing all that stuff, as you know, you've started up your own kind of YouTube channel. It's really hard.
It is.
So I think that trying to start something but doing very specific content, whilst that's really good in terms of a clear message, also you've immediately cut off like a bunch of people who don't like that stuff. So your pool of people who are going to watch becomes smaller. So it's tough to break through. So it's a really interesting space, and like credit to people who do really well in it, because it's far harder than anyone thinks.
Have you guys thought of doing anything yourself on YouTube as well?
No, not really. I mean, we've got a YouTube channel, but it's not very big.
Or twitching.
Or twitching, just coughing. That's my new thing. Yeah, I mean, we quite like talking about the game, but again, it's like it's so much time to do all that stuff.
It takes a lot of time.
And it's like anything. I think what we've learned from social media, and Alex does a lot of the stuff on Twitter, and what he's very good at is delivering content regularly. I think that's kind of true of any platform, is that, you know, which why your stuff's good, because you're doing it regularly. It's like watching a TV show. When I was younger and TV shows used to be on every week, you know when they're going to be on.
Yeah.
So you kind of learn to expect it. It becomes a thing you look forward to.
Yeah.
If it becomes just kind of you dropping, you know, 5 videos one month and one the next, and like I think you lose people. So I think for us that would be the difficulty, would be kind of sustaining a level of level of performance that was kind of regular enough to be beneficial.
Interesting. Yeah. It takes a lot of time, definitely. It's like you have to make a decision as well. Are you actively developing the game forward, or are you evangelizing the product as well?
Yeah. I mean, we had like a blog on our website that we did every week.
It was a great blog.
It was a cool blog. We did it every week, and we did it for like a year and a half or something from the start.
Yeah.
We probably did like a crazy amount. And it was just like, kind of don't know what to say. Written like 70 blog, and then you just have a couple of weeks, and then it's gone. You missed your part. Not necessarily people reading it, but for us, then it was like it's not a regular occurrence, and you suddenly stop making time for it, and
Yeah.
you get busy with other stuff, and then it's gone. And like, in some ways that was a deliberate decision, in that you had to weigh up like the time you're investing in something versus, you know, where that time could go elsewhere, and the benefits. But it's really hard, that stuff.
Do you have any fears about influencers?
Any what, sir?
Fears about influencers.
It's, you know, you always have it's like any press, even this week, kind of waiting for the articles to come out. You're a bit like, kind of like it's a bit tough. So I think that it's like the great power comes great responsibility. It's you put it out there and someone kind of doesn't represent it in the best way or gets the messaging wrong. I think that can be a bit damaging, but I think that's perhaps where it's important you give it to the, you know, the right people. And also just you have to take a step back and accept it at the end of the day. It's
That's true.
I think what I wouldn't want to do is essentially kind of pay or bribe someone to say positive stuff. It just seems a bit disingenuous. It's like I kind of want people to, it's like, hey, here's something you can share, and that's for free.
And players can smell that.
Yeah, exactly.
They're very, very receptive about that.
So ideally, I'd like people to play it and enjoy it and call out the good things. And then if there are, you know, bad things, maybe that's feedback we can work on, or just it's more of an honest review. So, and I think the danger of that kind of space and world is that the more we shift towards it, the more money that goes into it, the more it just becomes like, oh, is the whole thing one? Like Instagram is almost becoming one just big like advertisement channel. It's like so you kind of lose that. And actually, a lot of it's so, I don't want to go on to a rant about it, but a lot of it's so deliberate in the photography and like, this is my life, but I've taken 5,000 photos to get here. And I think people are starting to kind of realize that. I think there's a danger of that with influencers and YouTube as well. When you start seeing the amounts of money people are being paid to say stuff about games, even with the caveat of like, you can say some bad things, but they have to kind of be jokes, and you know, it can't be really bad, but there's a way of trying to make it more genuine. Still, basically, you're just paying for a good review. I think I'm interested to see how that changes, whether there's kind of a backlash against that, or, you know, whether it gives rise to just, you know, smaller people with smaller channels and smaller reach, because people go there for a more genuine review. I don't know. Or people just have to put their games out and accept the feedback, regardless of whether it's good or bad. I don't know.
We don't know where the future will go, but I'm sure there will be something that will once again revolutionize the industry. It's like a wave. It comes every now and then, every maybe 3 to 5 years, and changes the whole structure. And usually when it comes, none of us sees it or believes that it will change anything, and will be too slow to react.
Yeah, no, totally. How people get their content, and what it does for the current landscape. I think it's fascinating.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
So I had one more question about the conventions as well. Now that you've done it, would you do anything differently? And would you go next year as well?
I think definitely go to DreamHack again, partly because it's closer and it was you know, good fun. Would I do anything differently? I mean, I think some of there's always stuff you can do differently. I think it would have been nice to have a bit more time with press at E3. But you know, that's easier said than done, right? They're really busy, so I think you have to try and be streamlined with that. I'm pretty pleased with the demo. I think one of the difficulty things for us is because our game is more about a longer experience. It's kind of an explorative adventure game. It's quite hard to condense that down into 10-15 minutes. So I think there is a question of like, how is it best shared with people? I mean, certainly the Sweden DreamHack, I think we could have done more with our booth, in that, you know, it wasn't the most exciting booths, but by booth I just mean like where the little holding we were showing the game.
Yeah,
we had a laptop connected to a big TV that was mounted on the wall, and then some banners that we'd printed out. But we were kind of hamstrung by stuff we had to be able to take to LA and then on to Sweden, and just the headspace to think about it all. So in future, I think that would be something I'd like to do more with, and I actually have a really cool backdrop and kind of pull people in a bit more that way, and I think make the game look more mature in some ways. I think if you walk past at the wrong point in like the attract reel, it might just look like a kid's game or something.
Yeah.
And also, actually, the music's really cool in our game, but you couldn't hear any of it because we just had headphones plugged in.
Yeah, that's true.
And whether we'd have been able to change that or not, I don't know. But sometimes perhaps you just go and be bold and go, look, we're just going to play the music. It's well called. So I think that stuff is good, interesting kind of learning points. And actually, I think the more shows you do, the more you can reuse that, and you develop a vocabulary for that. There was a game near us actually that I can't remember the name of, but the gameplay was about like some gravity-based gameplay, but their setup for the booth was they had a chair, but like lying on the floor, and the TV was like suspended above it. So you basically lay on your back to play the game, and then they had the walls kind of themed appropriately with like the name of the game and stuff on. So everyone basically came around and took pictures, and then that, and you got the branding. It's like, that's smart. That's just free advertising, stuff like that. I thought that was clever. So
that's cool.
But yeah, I think that's the stuff that I think we have the power to change more than format at E3. But E3, it was interesting. I mean, it was, I don't know, it was quiet this year. It feels like it's maybe dying a little bit. There was no Sony, no real EA presence, no real Ubisoft presence that I saw.
Interesting.
So compared to previous years, it just felt a little bit flat.
Yeah.
I think like Devolver Digital had their own thing outside of E3, which is like kind of a bit rogue. So yeah, I don't know how that'll carry on. I think that there's bigger shows in Europe now.
There's the Gamescom in, where was it? In
it's Cologne.
Yeah, Cologne.
That's in August. So
will you be going?
I think we probably will be going.
Yeah, it's a huge one. Has a lot of players as well.
Yeah. So again, quite in what format, I'm not sure yet. So that's what we need to work out. It's not long away either. So that's the challenge. That's the world we're in now, is preparing for this stuff, but also trying to finish the game. So.
And how is the finishing of the game going?
It is ongoing. It's
ongoing.
I mean, actually, that was the other thing about being away for a week or so. You kind of have a bit of time to reflect and get some, not necessarily energy back because it was tiring, but doing different stuff. So it's a nice break from making the game. It's re-energizing in that sense. So
I think it's nice also for you guys to remember that there is an audience that is anxious to play the game, and sometimes you forget it when you're only making it.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. Can I go? Yeah, we are making it for someone to play. That's quite nice.
Yeah. And that's really, really cool.
So, yeah.
So doing magic.
Yeah, exactly.
So remind everybody, when is your plan to get the game out?
So this is one of the questions that everyone asked us that we had to give a slightly vague answer to. We're still working that out, is the honest answer, because we don't know what platforms we're going to launch on yet, because the game actually works well. We've done it with direct control through a control pad, so it works well on consoles, and the graphical style means it scales up really well and scales down really well. So essentially, it's given us a lot of good problems in that we can do console support too, but we can't do everything at once. So we have to work out the best strategy for launch, and some of that is working out which platform to launch on, and then which is the right window to launch in, because you don't want to launch the same week as someone else, something huge. So that is why we don't really know, but not too far away.
December 24.
Yeah, don't joke. Sooner than that, hopefully.
Cool. I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks, man.
I know there's going to be a lot of other people as well.
I'm looking forward to it being done.
What will you do after, Rocky?
Well, interestingly, so I mean that's one of the things, because we won't launch on everything at once. So we'll probably
Other platforms?
other platforms obviously support it, potentially continue to market it at other shows, you know, to be realistic in the fact that we're not going to launch and suddenly everyone in the world knows about the game. There's going to be, you know, 99.9% of the world who won't know about a game. To be honest, even that would be pretty good. But yeah, so we're going to have to continue to take it to shows, I think, and sell it.
Yeah.
And, so I imagine that will probably be a large part of, you know, the following 6 months to a year. But hopefully we should have some downtime to think about what we want to do again. And some of that will be based on, you know, how well it does, and you know, what resonates with people.
Yeah.
I kind of like the art style people really like. I think that's kind of a banker. So I think if we do anything else, it'll probably be in a similar way. So I think the question marks are, you know, whether it's another narrative game, what the design is, that kind of stuff. That's the fun bit. That's the fun bit of any project, is like coming up with something new, because everything's possible.
That's true.
So yeah.
Awesome.
Good
Thank
stuff.
you. Thank you, Tom, for sharing your adventures and insights and findings.
Pleasure. I made it through.
Yeah, it was awesome. There's a comment as well. Good luck finishing the game, Tom and Alex.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
it was great. All right. So if you are new to the channel, smash that subscribe button. Hit that like button.
Smooth.
I'm kidding, dude. And check out all the other content as well, especially the previous Herding Cats episodes, where we go more in depth on how to art direct and what does it mean to be one. And when will we talk again, Tom?
Next week, I think.
Next week, will we try Tuesday?
Yes.
Yes, we'll try Tuesday.
I like that you're making me commit live.
Yeah.
Good tactics.
Well, I can be guilty of breaking it myself, though. So we'll try
next week. So it's good to do it again. Last week was hard because I was in basically a tiny house in the foothills of LA with no Wi-Fi. And it was just like, this isn't going to happen. So.
And what will we talk about next week?
I don't know.
Guess we could talk about feedback.
Yeah, giving feedback.
Maybe, or receiving feedback.
Both. Yeah.
Let's see. Maybe that could be one. So we have a list. We'll surprise everyone.
Exactly. All right, good stuff.
All right. Thank you so much, Tom, and thank you everybody in the audience.
Yeah, thanks for watching, everyone.
Yeah, hope you enjoyed it. And let us know if you have any questions or requests for future episodes, and we'll get to it.
Awesome. Have a good day, everyone.